Hello there, and welcome to Journey to Recovery. We appreciate you listening. Our podcast today is called Finding Contentment in Recovery, Part 2. I think everyone could use a little more joy and happiness in life, so our conversation today will move us in that direction. We'll cover some simple truths about obtaining and retaining happiness and contentment. Our host is Dr. Hal Baumchen, a licensed clinical psychologist and licensed alcohol and drug counselor. He's the executive director of Northland Counseling Services and the clinical director of North Star Regional Co-occurring Disorder Treatment Programs. He's an author, speaker, and clinician with over 30 years of counseling experience. Let's get started. Hey guys, everybody feeling happy today?
Pretty good, Gaylen. How about you?
Yes. Yeah. The technological difficulties have subsided.
Yay.
Yes, and contentment has entered the room. Great. Hey, this is a program where we talk about co-occurring disorders. That's where you have mental health problems and substance use disorder at the same time. And it really works well to try to treat both of those conditions at the same time with the same treatment staff, maybe in the same place. And we try to cover those topics here on this program, Journey to Recovery. And we're glad you're here. We do this as an audio recording, and we video record it so that you can watch it, not in the car, as Gaylen would say. And today we're talking through, for the second part, we're talking about contentment and happiness. And happiness, we said last time, is that fleeting experience where something goes your way. I like pancakes with maple syrup, and that makes me happy when I have those for breakfast. Or I like eggs and cheese for breakfast. It makes me happy when we have eggs and everything works out. But that's real fleeting or even fickle. So contentment is more long-term, maybe has some purpose and meaning attached to it. And so I'm a happy guy or content guy, but that's mostly because of the happiness or the purpose, the meaning that I have in my life.
You know, the first truth that we talked about last podcast is that happiness is maximized when you feel like you're part of a community.
Right. Strong, healthy relationships have to do with feeling supported, encouraged, understood, that you belong, you fit in with other people, and you can make yourself more content or happy by having stronger and better, healthier relationships. You might want to be around people who support you. You might have to disconnect from those who don't support you.
Right. So happiness can be increased by involving yourself in healthy relationships.
Yeah,
right?
Find somebody who's good for you and hang out with them. I think it's actually going to help you. Ask yourself if you need to decrease that attachment and connection with some people in your life that drag you down. And perhaps you need to get around people who can encourage you and really support your recovery.
The second one that we talked about is that happiness is maintained by growing and learning.
I think you asked me if I was a learner, a lifelong learner, and that's true for me. I like to get involved. And you told me last week that you had tried some new things, some creative things that really kind of inspired you, and you could try some new things or learn some new things.
Mm-hmm. As I was doing it, this is a computer project that involves art in some respect, and Bill, if Art's not around, we'll edit that out. Okay.
No, I'll leave that.
Okay. But I as I was doing this, I'm basically editing images, and as I was doing it, it was like, boy, I haven't had this feeling for a long time. I haven't felt. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just a fleeting, like we talked about. It wasn't just the proper Q-tip. It was a strong. This is a
sense
better way to go through life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How about for you, Tim? I know that you like creative things. You like the drama. I think you're involved in another production.
Right. I do enjoy doing creative things, and the drama that I'm involved with is, again, something that gives me contentment and also I think helps give other people contentment. So that's important to me.
Do you feel like your life is expanding and growing? You're trying new things?
as much as time allows. Yes, right.
Right. Yep. We can get bogged down. That's a good point. Doing the same old thing in the same old way with the same people. And sometimes it's nice to try to grow and expand, kick your life back open, and that produces more contentment.
So that was kind of a recap of the first two that we talked about. Let's continue with our list of 10 ways to increase happiness and contentment. The third on our list is some people seem to be born happy.
I think that's true.
Do you think some people are born miserable? Or do they make their own misery?
That's a good question.
Well, now, you talked earlier about some things are contagious, some things you have to learn.
Yeah.
I don't know if that applies here.
I think it's true for me that I was born happy. I like saying I was born happy and optimistic from two pessimistic parents. I'm not sure how that can happen, but I remember being optimistic and upbeat from birth. And happy people often engage in positive internal dialogue. Things are going to go okay today. This is going to be a great day. I'm going to meet some new people. This is going to be fun. And they say those things to themselves. And happy people do a lot of that. So I think you can develop it. Certainly that's what we're talking about. But some people seem to get a little head start, as though almost from birth they have this ability to think optimistically and positively.
As we talked earlier, also, depressed people kind of seem to rehearse their problems and review their mistakes, whereas happy people rehearse progress, kind of look forward into the future for more opportunity.
Right. Have you ever met somebody who continually rehearsed the negative?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Try to not hang around with them as much as possible.
Exactly, yeah. So they're giving out this vibe that says, stay away from me, and I don't like being around them. They drag other people down, but I think they make themselves more miserable by rehearsing their misery. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like it offloads their misery. In fact, it makes it worse. To increase your level of contentment and happiness, you might try identifying negative thoughts, but then refuting them or kicking them to the side and actually replace them with something positive. And that healthy internal comments that you make, you can rehearse those on a daily basis. That's actually going to help you feel better and have more happiness and contentment in your life. Again, we're talking through these 10 areas that you can increase happiness and contentment in your life. But the nice thing about this is happy people live longer, they live healthier lives, they're in healthier relationships, and they get more raises, they make more money. All kinds of wonderful things come your way if you have a sense of contentment. And you can produce that by doing these 10 simple things.
Yeah, so the fourth one on our list is that getting the material possessions we want usually does not bring lasting happiness.
Some money, actually, Tim, some money does bring some happiness, but maybe only to a certain point.
That's interesting. Some happiness.
But only to a point maybe of general comfort or safety for me and maybe for my children. After the basics are met, then more money does not seem to bring an increased level of contentment or happiness.
Although that's a theory, I'd like to test it out for myself more personally.
I think I would too. When we look at lottery winners, researchers report that if a person is relatively happy when they win the lottery, then after a couple of years, they're relatively happy having won the lottery. But if the person is miserable and unhappy when they win the lottery, then after a couple of years, they've returned to the same misery level that they were before they won the lottery.
I'm sure that's true, but I still would like to test it out personally.
I bet most people could give examples of how they purchased something that was supposed to bring happiness or satisfaction, only to discover that after a few days, it wasn't as fulfilling as they had hoped for.
Right, that new pair of shoes, or we thought maybe we'd be happy when we finished school or got a different car or moved into a different house or got a different spouse or got a new puppy, a new job. But after a few days, those things promise to fulfill, but the satisfaction and the contentment maybe fade quickly, actually.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever have buyer's remorse?
What is that? Tell us what that is.
Well, when you buy something and almost immediately regret it, want to return it.
Yeah,
Whatever.
It's just not as cool as you thought it was going to be.
Exactly, yep.
And then, of course, you have the payments that didn't go down when the shine wore off. And I regret having purchased that. Or I feel scammed, like they talked me into that. And I regret that.
Yes.
Do you ever have non-buyer's remorse?
What's that?
That's when you buy something. Or I'm sorry, that's when you didn't get to buy something and you immediately regret it. I'm an auction buyer, so I didn't buy it. You've purchased stuff on auction
right.
too, and now you're thinking like, if I just would have gone up $5 or $8 more, I would have had that thing, and I regret not buying it. Or last day of the sale and now it's gone, and or a house that you were going to buy and you're like, no, and now that house is gone, you can't buy it. And so sometimes we'll have that non-buyer's remorse as well.
Number 5 on our list of the 10 things that bring increased happiness and contentment is we often want what we cannot have.
Now, the secret to happiness and contentment is to actually want what you already have. All too often, we compare what we have with what we want, and those are different. So I don't have what I want. But if we could just kind of get our mind around, I'm going to want what I already have. It's better to practice being grateful for what you already have and review that list frequently.
Can you give us an example of that?
Well, I have a lot, but let me review the list of all the things that I have. And again, reviewing what you have makes you feel good about yourself. So I wish I had a spouse. I already have one. I wish I had a house. I already have one. Wish I had a job. Already have one. Wish I had an occupation, a career. I already have one. Wish I had children. Already have 2. I wish I had a vehicle. I already have one. So rehearsing what I have makes me feel good, makes me feel content, successful, and happy.
So what about rehearsing what you don't have or what you wish you had?
Well, I wish I had a new car, but I don't have one. I wish I had a shorter commute to work, but I don't have it. I wish I had sons, but I don't have any. I wish I had a dog, but I don't have one. I wish I had a stainless steel stove at home, but I don't have one. I wish I had a cat. Just kidding. Rehearsing what I want, it makes me feel miserable. Or rehearsing what I don't have or what I lost because of my drug and alcohol use. Rehearsing what I don't have makes me feel miserable. So keep in mind, you have to rehearse what you have. Well, I wish I had a house like you, Hal. No, don't fall for that. Don't rehearse somebody else's list. You have to rehearse your own list. What do you have? Remember that. Recall that to mind and be grateful for that.
Exactly. Don't just rehearse it. Be grateful.
Yeah, I think that's the power of it. I'm happy to have it. I'm not miserable about it. To increase positive feelings, including happiness, try listing 4 or 5 things that you already have, and then rehearse how grateful you are, how appreciative you are for having those things.
And think about the intangible things in life too, and not just material possessions. So, for example, be grateful that you have compassionate people around you.
Yeah, somebody who cares, and you fit in, you belong, you're understood.
Right.
Somebody supports your recovery and what you're doing here, and you're grateful for that. And instead of just material possessions, you're rehearsing other things, the intangible things that you have.
Right. Or be thankful for your own kindness towards others, or be thankful that you're in a loving relationships, all those intangible things.
Right, yeah.
So we're working our way through a list of 10 things that increase happiness or contentment. Gaylen, what's number 6?
The 6th item on our list is living a full life means expecting a full range of emotions.
I think we talked about this in our last podcast, where some of the sadness in life can cause you to be creative, but everybody has these down moments where you're grieving, sad, angry, bitter. Things didn't go your way, circumstances are hard, but don't dismiss all of those and don't expect life to be pain-free.
So in other words, don't look for the pain-free choices in life all the time.
I think pain can guide us as well. I also think that pain and disappointment can create character traits in me that are actually admirable. Like I'm more compassionate because I went through a difficult, painful time. Perhaps by using pain, problems, and difficulties in my life, I can become more diligent or more understanding of other people.
If I allow it to, pain can create increased frustration tolerance, perseverance, and even creativity.
Absolutely. You might ask yourselves, what emotions do you find it difficult to live with? And how do you fight against them? How do you try to run from them? But I want to accept them, and I want to, tolerate frustration like you were saying.
Some of our clients and maybe some of our listeners may be tempted to use drugs and alcohol to escape the emotional pains and problems of life.
Absolutely. It's difficult to suffer through these things, but pain must be tolerated rather than looking for instant fixes and quick escapes.
Getting back to our list, the 7th item is action towards a goal can bring contentment, feelings of accomplishment, and increased happiness.
Instead of just waiting for the goal to occur, my process of getting to the goal, like I want to play this piece of music, that's my goal, but practicing the piece of music might actually increase my contentment, or I want to have that play production, but all of the work that goes into your play might bring about some contentment.
I always like getting things done and doing them well. It makes me feel accomplished and proud.
You're a project guy, aren't you, Tim? And we can talk about that one for a long time. But if we have purpose and goals in life and then have them where we accomplish them, I think it can really help increase our level of satisfaction and contentment in life.
Right.
So if you have a project, it's not just the completion of it, it was actually doing it that made me feel good.
And I think those don't have to be big things, right? They can be smaller things that you complete and accomplish.
Yeah. Both Tim and I, we iron shirts. And you've said before, it's one of those simple things in life where you have something when you're done.
Right. You get some immediate satisfaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's why farming is such a happy life. I once worked for a farmer and plowed fields. And boy, watching that thing turn from that big brown dirt clod thing into that beautiful black carpet.
Yeah.
Really a sense of satisfaction.
Right. And instantly get something done.
Yes. Yeah. Well, number 8 on our list is be careful how you compare your life and status to others.
Trying to be someone you're not, it's just going to make you feel discontent. That's going to make you feel miserable. Try to be who you're designed to be. Try to be the best person you can be. Don't try to be somebody else. And you might ask yourself, are you comparing yourself to somebody? Are you trying to be like an actor or, somebody else?
Or say an athlete, your father, your sister.
Right. And I've got these people that I emulate them. I want to be like them. And that's just going to make you miserable. Why don't you try to be you instead of being your brother or being a famous athlete like you mentioned?
Yeah.
So, do you ever hear about people wanting to be the person they used to be?
Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it? Especially for somebody who was depressed and they just want to go back to the way they were. But don't try to be somebody else. You can acknowledge their successes without envying them, but you can find ways to be happy for them without discounting their success. And I think sometimes we do that.
Yeah, sometimes we do put other people down needlessly, don't we?
Our neighbor gets a new car, and then we try to find faults about him.
His car is not paid for. Those payments are really high.
Yeah,
he's probably getting a divorce soon anyway.
It's just a midlife crisis.
And rather than being happy for him, we try to push him down, make ourselves feel better. But you don't need to do that. Just feel good about where he's at, and you don't have to try to make him feel inferior to you or push him down in any way.
Number 9 on our list is that too many options make people less happy.
You would think more options would make you more happy. If you had 2 options, you'd be happy. But if you had 4, you'd be twice as happy. But it turns out too many options just make you feel anxious, confused, and fill you with insecurity and doubt. We have to be really careful. I've got a colleague, Dre Northrup, and she talks about going into a superstore for babies looking for a stroller. She said there were 4 aisles of strollers. Strollers for tall people, short people, jogging strollers, cheap ones, expensive ones, green ones, pink ones, blue ones, every color you could she said that there were so many options, she just got overwhelmed and left the store without buying anything.
So in other words, too many options don't make us happy.
That's right. Too many options make us confused.
Yes.
And finally, number 10, happiness and contentment are achieved when you live according to your own values.
If you value honesty and truth and you find yourself lying, you're going to feel embarrassed and have a lowered sense of happiness.
So we like ourselves better and feel more hopeful and successful when we live in harmony with what we value and believe.
Yep. And if you value lying and you're lying, you're going to feel good. If you value the truth and honesty and you're lying, you're going to feel miserable. So we want to live according to our own values. Tim, we've been talking through these things, and we're probably running out of time here.
Yeah, we are getting to the end of our time here. So as Hal said, we've been talking through 10 ways to increase happiness and contentment. And we've looked at how happiness is increased by growing and learning.
We learned today that living a full life means expecting a full range of emotions, and that happiness is maximized if you feel deeply connected to your community. And we also learned that if you live according to your own values, you're going to feel better about yourself.
Right. If you'd like more information on co-occurring disorders or on any of the topics related to this one, check us out on the web at journeytorecovery.com.
Gaylen, take us out.
Well, folks, thanks for listening to today's podcast. You can download materials that'll help you develop skills to identify emotional problems, reduce symptoms, and prevent relapse at journeytorecovery.com. I'm Gaylen Morse. Thanks for listening to our program on finding contentment in recovery. See you next time on Journey to Recovery. Remember, recovery is a journey. Enjoy the ride.